Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're gonna be continuing the my Pokemon Adventure. So let's just get right into it. After becoming the Alola champion, I choose to go back to my home region of Kanto, where I leave all my Pokemon behind besides Incineroar. And that's when I land in Pallet Town of Pallet Town. And in Pallet Town, I go to Professor Oak's lab because that's where Kukui told me to go, and Professor Oak offers me a starter between Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. And Professor Oak's grandson is there, Gary Oak. So I pick Blastoise and he picks Venusaur. I pick Squirtle and he picks Bulbasaur. So we have our first battle where I end up losing the 1v1 because Bulbasaur has his Vine Whip and all Squirtle can do is bubble. And with that loss, I'm like not inspired really, but like I'm motivated to go catch more Pokemon. So that's when I go into a row, and then where I encounter two Nidoran. And right when I'm about to encounter, I run into How. Well, right about when I'm going to encounter, How followed me all the way from Alola to Kanto. And so what happens is How catches we both throw a ball at the Nidorans. I catch the Nidoran male while he catches the Nidoran female. Alright, and now when we go to Viridian Forest, what happens is we go through, we battle all the trainers. I focus more on using my new Pokemon instead of Incineroar. Incineroar could probably pretty much beat every single thing in this region, besides maybe some of the gym leaders and trainers and champion. So we get through it, the Elite Four, with Squirtle learning Bubble Beam, and Nidoran learning Double Kick. I think that's handy because my first ever gym battle in my life I'm about to take part in, which is gonna be against Brock. So I battle the gym trainers with Squirtle, and then I go battle Brock, where I send out my Nidoran first, which ends up defeating his Geodude. But when he sends out his Onix uses like binds to constrict Nidoran, making him faint. So then I send out my Squirtle, which through all of the energy, he uses all of his power to finish off the Onix with a Bubble Beam. And when I get the gym badge, I'm pretty proud of myself for pretty much training a new team because I haven't used Incineroar so I haven't really used Incineroar in any major battle. So after defeating Brock, I go to on the area where Mount Moon is, and right before I go in, I'm alerted that I'm alerted that there is some really powerful Pokemon. So I think in my head, I don't want to use Incineroar, but I don't want my Nidoran and Squirtle to like feel bad about themselves from losing. So I decided to transfer over my Eevee from the PC, and then I go into Mount Moon, where when I climb down the ladders, getting deeper into the cave, I encounter some Team Rocket grunts trying to steal Team Rocket runs trying to steal some fossils from this like scientist guy. So I take care of them really easily with Incineroar's Darkest Lariat. And with that, and after pretty much saving the scientist, he offers me a fossil, which I take the dome fossil. Yeah, I take the dome fossil, but I never actually like revive it. So going through Mount Moon, right when I'm about to leave, I encounter a really strong wild Clefairy with a Clefable next to it. So I send out my Squirtle to battle it, and it managed Squirtle ends up defeating the Clefairy, but right about when the Clefable is about to defeat it with a really powerful Moonblast, Squirtle evolves into War Turtle using Rapid Spin to reflect the using like a Rapid Spin Protect combo to deflect the Moonblast and defeating the Clefable. And so with the new evolution, I leave Mount Moon pretty much ready to go defeat Misty. And so I do some training, and I'm about to go to Nugget Bridge because I heard there's a whole lot of strong trainers. And that's where I battle my rival again, which I end up winning this time because he still has just a Bulbasaur, and I did the Rapid Spin Protects power up the shell and then hit it with the Rapid Spin. So in his Pidgeotto was really tough for my Nidoran, but he ended up defeating it with a Poison Sting, surprisingly. After defeating my rival, I continue on to Nugget Bridge, defeating all the trainers. But that's when I end up going to battling the final trainer, who turns out to be a Team Rocket Grunt. So I defeat his Drowsy with Nidoran, which ends up evolving Nidoran into Nidorino. So easily defeating it. And so I figure out eventually that after going into Bill's house and getting the SS Anne tickets, I go and battle. Yeah, I go and battle Misty with my War Turtle and Nidorino. They do a fierce combo, but after defeating Staryu, Misty's Starmie is way too strong for Nidorino, which ends up with him fainting. But then I send in Incineroar to use a Darkest Lariat, defeating the Starmie. But the Misty pulls out a Pokeball, saying, "I've been hiding this one for a while," and then sends out a Gyarados, which scares my Incineroar for a little bit until me and Incineroar figure out that, well, the Gyarados isn't very strong. So I hit it with a new learned move, Thunder Punch, that I just learned. Not me. Incineroar just learned by watching all the Pikachus run around in Viridian Forest. And so that's when I get Misty. And so what I do is I go down to southern Cerulean City. And that's where I meet Gary again, where I give him the not Gary, Blue. I might have said Gary earlier. I meant Blue. And that's where I give him the other SS Anne ticket. And so we we go down. We go down to this. So me and Blue go down to the SSN, and we both go on. But help the after we help the captain, I choose to stay after seeing that Hal was on the boat and he was about to go to the Orange Islands, and so Blue gets off, but I stay on with Hal, and we both get off at one of the Orange Islands, and that's where I come across a Meowth, which I decide to catch, which reminded me of my mom's Meowth back in Alola, so that's why I caught it, and I also come across a Thunderstone in the Orange Island, but it's like a weird color, so I decide to use it on Eevee, which I haven't really used much up to this point, which evolves into a weird colored super cool Jolteon. So yeah. That's stupid. And what would happen was we would get back on a different boat, taking us back to where the SSN departed from. And that's when I would challenge Lieutenant Surge, where his Voltorb ended up taking out Nidorino, and his Electabuzz was no match for Wartortle. But when he sends out his Raichu, that's when most of my Pokemon get defeated. First was my Wartortle, then it was Meowth. And so my last Pokemon was Jolteon, which I didn't use because he was also an electric type. But then I sent out Jolteon, not wanting to use Incineroar, because I feel like that's kind of like cheating. So, and somehow my Jolteon uses like a pink and blue and purple and all like a almost rainbow colored Thunderbolt, which ends up overwhelming the Raichu. And Lieutenant Surge is like, "Whoa, that Thunderbolt was weird and cool. How'd you do it?" I said, "I guess it was the Thunderstone I found on Orange Island that made my Jolteon this weird color." So after defeating Lieutenant Surge, I go into Diglett's cave, Diglett Tunnel, whichever one. I know there's one from Alola. And so I go, and when I get out, I end up meeting this guy who gives me the TM for Flash, which I teach to my Jolteon, but obviously I'm not gonna keep it on my Jolteon. And so I end up heading down to Celadon City, but before that I train in this like lakefront before Rock Tunnel, and that's where Blastoise or Wartortle ends up defeating a really strong Kingler, evolving into Blastoise, which I thought was like super cool. And that's also where I offer Nidorino that's when I offer Nidorino the Moonstone I ended up collecting from that Clefable, evolving him into Nidoking. And so Blastoise jumps into the water. Interesting, because like now he's like super powerful. He wants to show off all to the water types, and he sees this Dratini who's like getting all beat up and whatnot. So so Blastoise comes to save it and like retrieve it. So when Blastoise brings it up, I end up like helping it and bringing it to the Pokemon Center, and that's where Dratini trusts me. So I add it to my team. And so going into Rock Tunnel, it's super dark, but Jolteon like uses Flash, so I bring him with me like outside of the Pokeball, as well as Blastoise, and we defeat all the Pokemon, like wild Pokemon trainers in Rock Tunnel, which leads us to the area right above Lavender Town, which I go into, and I get the creeps going in there, so I just ignore it. And so I walk down to Celadon City through the tunnel, like subway looking thing, like the train subway, that looking thing. And so I go into Celadon City, and that's where I challenge Erica to a battle using Nidoking and Dratini. Like, I try to only use them. And so when I send out Nidoking to defeat her Tangela, I tell him to use Poison Sting, but the Poison Sting is supercharged and pretty much turns into a Sludge Bomb, giving Nidoking a new move, which takes out the Tangela. Nidoking also takes out her Weepin Bell with a new Earthquake attack. But when Erica sends out her Parasect, that's when Nidoking falls, and that's when I send out Dratini. And Dratini only really knows how to use Dragon Rage and Wrap, so I tell it to use that a whole bunch of times. But when Parasect is about to grab on and almost cut Dratini in half, Dratini evolves into Dragonair and uses Dragon Breath combined with a Thunder Wave to defeat the Weepin Bell, and the only thing remaining is Erica's Vileplume, which goes down really easily to a Dragon Tail, Dragon Breath, Water Pulse combo. And so that's when after defeating Erica, I go to Saffron City, where I defeat all the Team Rocket grunts and end up saving the whole city. And that's when I battle Sabrina, which is my toughest gym battle yet. But I ended up defeating her, Mr. Mime, and Kadabra pretty easily with a combination of Blastoise and Jolteon. But when she sends out her Alakazam, I feel I want to send out my Meowth, which doesn't do that well until Meowth learns a new move, Night Slash, and evolves into Persian. A Persian with a purple gem, which is pretty cool. And that purple gem actually allows it to use Psybeam. That's pretty much the only move it actually allows it to use, which I honestly think is pretty cool. That I have a special Persian. And so I defeat Sabrina. And let's just skip ahead. I also defeat Koga and Blaine. But when I go to the Viridian City Gym, I figure out that the leader of Team Rocket is the gym leader, Giovanni. and and that and I defeat all of his ground types pretty easily, except when he sends out his a Rhydon, and that's when I send out Dragonair to try to defeat it, but it's not good enough, and the Rhydon's about to take out Dragonair, and that's when she evolves into a big, strong, powerful Dragonite and finishes it off with a combination of Ice Beam, Thunder, and Fire Blast. And now I'm allowed to go to the Elite Four. And that's when I battle through Lorelei, defeating her with Incineroar and Nidoking and Jolteon, because most of her Pokemon are water types. And then I battle Bruno with Dragonite and Nidoking, winning. And then I battle Agatha with Persian, Incineroar, and Jolteon, but they all faint, so that's when I have to send out Blastoise, which ends up finishing off her Gengar with a super-powered Hydro Pump. But that's when I get to Lance, and I get through all my Pokemon. All my Pokemon faint, except for Jolteon. Jolteon's my last Pokemon standing against Lance's Dragonite. Even my Incineroar fainted. And that's when I'd use my final attack. A Volt Tackle that I've been training secretly. But when it impacts with with Dragonite, nothing happens. Jolteon faints. Alright, and that's going to be the end of this video. I didn't end up winning the Kanto League. But yeah, that was my Kanto adventure. Next one of these videos, I'm going to go to Johto. And I'm going to try something different with that video. I'm just going to introduce the Pokemon and, like, how I caught them and, like, their biggest feat or whatever. Alright, so, if you want to, you can still enter that poll that I put up in the community tab. I ended up doing one of the videos from that one. And, I might put a new poll up, so you don't click the other option, the one that I just did, my Kanto Adventure. So yeah, I'm gonna do something different for my next video. So like, subscribe, and see you in the next one. Peace.